Few women have risen to the rank of queen. Even fewer have held that title twice, and no one else has been queen to both a Viking and a Saxon king, except one, Queen Emma. Emma was born in 985 in Normandy, northern France, to Count Richard and his Danish wife Gunnora. She came from a really powerful bloodline. She was the great-granddaughter of Rollo the Viking, a legendary warrior who conquered the region and gave it its name. In fact, Normandy literally means land of the Northmen, a reminder to this day of its Viking roots. Just a few miles of water, the English Channel, separated Normandy from its Saxon neighbours across the sea. This close proximity made Normandy the perfect launching point for Viking raids into England. From the English king's perspective, Normandy wasn't just a neighbour, it was a serious threat. Like many women of her time and of her status, Emma was used as a political bargaining chip, a pawn between powerful rulers. In her early teens, she was married to the English king Ethelred at Winchester. He was about 20 years older than her. The marriage wasn't necessarily about love, it was about power. For the English, it offered protection from the Viking threat, and for Emma's family, it secured a prestigious and strategic alliance. Upon arriving in England, Emma was forced to take on an English name, Ælfgifu, the exact same name as that of her predecessor, Ethelred's first wife and mother to his heirs. Imagine being brought to a foreign land, being categorically stripped of your own identity, expected to fill the shoes of a predecessor, even sharing her name, and being expected to be stepmother to her children, all whilst you're still a child yourself. Ethelred granted Emma lands, especially around Winchester, the royal capital. In due course, she gave birth to 3 children: Edward, later known as Edward the Confessor, Alfred, and a daughter, Gunnora. But the security and the stability of the realm was once again put under threat, this time not by Danish raiders, but by the king himself. Ethelred had ordered the St. Brice's Day massacre to wipe out all of the Danes in England. Among the dead lay Gunhilda, the sister of Sweyn Forkbeard, king of Denmark. This provoked Sweyn to attack England, pillaging Emma's lands and, in 1013, conquering England. Emma and her sons were forced into exile with her family in Normandy. Emma's sons had never been guaranteed the throne. After all, by the time they were born, Ethelred's sons from his first marriage were already grown men and active in their father's rule. It was presumed they would, of course, take the throne in due course. But knowing that didn't make exile for Emma any easier. In 1014, the death of Sweyn Forkbeard allowed Ethelred to return to England, but it wasn't a true return to power. Ethelred and his son Edmund faced a fierce challenge from Sweyn's son, Cnut. After a brutal struggle, Canute emerged victorious, becoming the ruler of England. The deaths of Ethelred and Edmund soon after only cemented this control over the kingdom. Emma was left in a difficult position. Now a widow to a former king, overnight her priorities would have shifted to protect the safety and the position of both her and her sons. But it was at this point in time that the course of Emma's life shifted yet again. Canute married Emma, making her, for the second time in her life, Queen of England. We don't know whether she agreed to the marriage willingly or was forced into it, but either way, the union did bring stability and legitimacy to them both. By marrying Emma, Canute wasn't tearing down England's existing leadership, he was marrying into it. And for Emma, marrying Canute meant that she regained her title as queen and regained some of her lands. For a woman of that time, land meant a certain degree of security. Now Emma was older, wiser, and more politically astute. She'd seen how kings ruled and how fast power could be snatched away. This time, she wasn't stepping into a foreign land to become queen. She knew the English court, its customs and its politics, and that made her an invaluable ally to Canute, her new husband. At this point, England was a deeply divided kingdom. For centuries, Viking raids had terrorised the land, pillaging towns, burning monasteries, and plundering religious sites. And now, the English found themselves ruled by a Viking king and his half-Viking queen. Emma quickly realised that she could play a crucial role in healing these divisions. Together, her and Canute made generous donations to the church.
One of the most famous was a large golden crucifix presented to the new minster at Winchester, which was the very heart of royal power in England. Healing these divisions was crucial for the stability of the realm, especially because Canute's vast North Sea empire, stretching across England, Denmark and Norway, kept him away from England for long periods, leaving Emma in charge in his absence. Despite his frequent travels, the couple managed to start a family. By 1020, Emma had given birth to 2 children with Canute, a son, Harthacnut, and a daughter, Gunhilda. But Emma wasn't Canute's only wife, and these weren't his only children. He already had another wife with whom he had 2 sons, Harold and Sweyn. Canute sent Sweyn to rule Norway and positioned his other son, Harold, as the likely heir to the English throne.
This situation once again placed Emma in a precarious position. If Canute were to die, then her sons from her first marriage and her children with Canute would become potential rivals for the throne. Especially given her other wife status, if it wasn't her sons that inherited, then her position and her very safety could be called into question.
When Canute died in 1035, Emma's worst fears were realised. His son Harold from his first marriage took control in England, with her own son Harthacnut sent away to rule Denmark. Harold seized Emma's property in Winchester and, according to the Anglo-Saxon Chronicle, drove Emma out without mercy, showing just how determined he was to cast out his father's other family. Emma's sons, quite understandably, tried to come to her aid, but tragedy struck. Alfred was brutally captured on his way to Winchester and had his eyes gouged out, leading to his untimely death. Once again, Emma was forced to flee her country. Fortunately for Emma, though, Harold's reign didn't last long. He died in 1040, and her son Harthacnut soon sailed to England. Disgusted by the way his half-brother had treated their mother, he had Harold's body dug up and thrown in a bog, an act of understandable vengeance from beyond the grave.
Emma worked to ensure the safety and the security of all of her sons. She helped facilitate a meeting between Harthacnut and his half-brother Edward, and upon Harthacnut's death, Edward became the sole ruler of England.
Emma's relationship with Edward seems to have been very troubled. He became the latest man in her story to confiscate all of her lands and her treasure.
This must have been really painful for Emma, given all that she had gone through and lost. I mean, she's had 2 husbands die, she's had 1 child brutally murdered, and now her status as queen is gone because Edward had his own queen. Many have tried to explain Edward's cold treatment of his mother. Some say he never forgave her for marrying Canute after his father Ethelred's death. Others say he feared her political influence.
One theory even claims her deeply religious son was scandalised by rumours of an affair with a bishop, and her infamous trial by ordeal, where she supposedly walked across hot coals to prove her innocence. But that really does sound more like the medieval tabloid version of events.
Emma died in 1052 as a relatively elderly woman for that time. She was buried alongside her son Harthacnut and her husband Canute.
She lay undisturbed in Winchester for 600 years until the time of the English Civil War. The parliamentarian forces, in an attempt to desecrate Winchester Cathedral, ransacked the bones there, riding horses through the nave and destroying the cathedral's peace. Following the raid, the mix of bones from across the ages were gathered into mortuary chests. When these were analysed in the 21st century, only one was female. Only one woman was ever expected to be found: Queen Emma.
Today, Emma is portrayed as scheming, calculating, cold, almost Machiavellian. But in truth, she was a woman surviving in a man's world, just determined to protect the children she'd brought into it and secure their future.
In the end, 2 of her sons would rise to the throne, and Edward would be canonised, remembered for centuries as Edward the Confessor, the last king of the House of Wessex, and one of the most iconic figures in English history.
Yet, in a last twist of fate, just a few decades later, an invasion from Emma's own homeland of Normandy was to forever change England, sweeping away the Anglo-Saxon world that she'd fought so hard to shape.